this is Amir. I play Aram on The Blacklist, and you are listening to The Blacklist Exposed.
It's the final week to vote in the annual 2020 Podcast Awards and a special audio version of the Blacklist San Diego Comic-Con panel on this week's episode of The Blacklist Exposed. Good day, everybody. I am Agent Troy Heinrichs with you, and just excited to be able to say that I watched the panel from Comic-Con from my couch the other night, and I was able to grab the audio from the panel so that for those of you that don't have time to watch the full video presentation of it, I'm going to have the audio here in the episode for you this week. But you can go ahead and see that full video over on our website, theblacklistexposed.com. Go ahead and pull up the Comic-Con post, and you can see the video there in the embed in the screen to give Comic-Con the credit for the post. So make sure you go check out the video when you have time. But if you don't have time, at least here is the audio version of that panel. There was some technical glitches during the course of the panel, obviously, as these were recorded over Zoom at a point in time. So don't fault the audio quality here. Just enjoy the panel for what it is. They talked to the guys from Proof Inc., who helped actually with the animation side. And they had some really good stories that we didn't cover ourselves on the coverage when we did episode 719 earlier back in May. So definitely hear what the Proof Inc. guys have to say, hear what Harry and Diego have to say about being the artists who recorded in their houses and their bathrooms and their closets about how they were able to do the audio for the episode. Just some really cool insights and some really good behind-the-scenes stuff from the Proof Inc. Team. So definitely check that out here at the end of the episode. But first, last reminder, this is the final week for the Podcast Awards voting, and I have a good friend here who'll tell me all about that. Just go to podcastawards.com and make sure you vote for us in the TV and film category, and then go ahead and check out the website, The Blacklist Exposed, for all the information on who else to vote for from all of our friends. But if you don't believe me that this is an important thing to do, here's a good friend of mine who will tell you all about that, and then we'll get into the Comic-Con interview right after this.
Hey, Amir Arison here, fan and listener and two-time guest on Golden Spiral Media's The Blacklist Exposed, which is often referred to around set among the producers and the crew and the cast and the writers as the official Blacklist podcast. Troy Heinrichs and Aaron Peterson, the hosts, are up for an award. So be sure to go to podcastawards.com. The TV and film category, vote for The Blacklist Exposed because Troy Heinrichs and Aaron Peterson have been crushing it. This is Amir Arison here, frequent listener, big fan. Be sure to send in your vote. These guys deserve it. And stay tuned for The Blacklist.
Hey everybody, welcome to Comic-Con at Home. I'm so happy you could join us for this virtual panel with the cast and crew of NBC's The Blacklist. My name is Philiana Ng, Senior Editor of TV at Entertainment Tonight, and we're going to be pulling back the curtain on the season 7 finale, which was partially animated due to COVID-19 shutting down production. But before we get into how it all came together, let me introduce the panelists. First, we have series creator and executive producer Jon Bokenkamp.
Hi, everyone.
Executive producer John Eisendrath.
Hi.
Diego Klattenhoff, who plays Agent Donald Ressler.
Hello.
Harry Lennix, who plays FBI Director Harold Cooper.
Hey.
And from London, England, we have Proof's visualization supervisors Adam Coglan.
Hi.
And Matt Perrin, who are responsible for animating this season 7 finale. Yeah, thanks guys for hopping on and doing this.
Cheers.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Be with you.
Let's set the scene, I guess. This was the 19th hour of the season. Obviously, this was not meant to be the finale of the season, right? In addition to kind of the week's blacklisters, you have Liz, who makes this monumental decision between, you know, her allegiance to either Reddington or Katerina. It also featured an appearance by the late, great Brian Dennehy as Dominic, Liz's grandfather and Reddington's close confidant. As we've established, this was an incredibly unique hour of television where we saw a seamless mix of live action footage and graphic novel style animation. So I guess just to get started, let's start with the executive producers. I mean, when production kind of shut down in mid-March, what were your initial feelings? Were you running through various scenarios in your heads, like almost immediately, of how you could finish this episode?
Oh, well, it was just spooky, right? I don't think we were thinking about finishing the episode. We were just trying to shut down. That's what I remember. Is it just things got very scary very quickly, and we decided we had to pull the plug. We shoot in New York. Everything was happening there, and it was unsafe. And we packed our bags, right, John? I mean, it was a little while before we started thinking about even contemplating sort of finishing the episode.
Yeah, we had written the rest of the season. We'd already written the episodes for the last 3 that we knew we were never going to get a chance to film that year. And we, at some point, after processing as much as anybody could what was going on, we did confront the question of whether we were going to do anything with the 4 days of filming that we had done for that episode. So we were a little less than halfway done with the 19th episode. And so when we thought, well, what could we do with it? Part of it was motivated by the reality that the episode prior was not an episode that we thought was going to give us a good endpoint for the season. And so we thought, well, was there anything that we could do that would provide us with that? And the episode that we had filmed half of did actually have a really good endpoint. And so that in part motivated us to start thinking about whether there was anything we could do to make that episode find its way to air. And John and I did go through various permutations. Should we just have the cast do a read-through of it? Should we do a kind of radio murder mystery hour where the audience was looking at an old-fashioned radio while listening to the cast do a read-through of the scenes that hadn't been filmed yet? And then we had done comic books at the outset of the series. And so we thought, well, the show is sort of a graphic novel in many ways, and should we just do a comic book, still photos or images that were animated to cover the scenes that hadn't been filmed? And then ultimately we thought, oh, well, if we're going to do that, why don't we try animating it? And as I'm sure John would agree, now that we know how much work it takes to do it, had we known how much work it takes to do it, we never would have suggested it.
Was it like a team effort to come up with this idea to animate this unfinished episode? Like, who gets the credit for broaching that kind of crazy idea?
I think John gets the credit for that. We had my first bad idea was when we were talking about how do we fill in the gaps. We were talking about the comic books, and I just remember, well, maybe we could. No one could go near anyone. And I remember thinking, well, John, I have comics in my office there. You're near Paramount. Maybe you could go in and pick up the comics, and we could send them to somebody with a camera, and they could point the camera at the comics, and we could, when we hear, Red talking, we would see Red's picture. When we hear Ressler talking, we'd see Ressler's picture, and we'd steal images from these. And we sat on that for a little bit, and ultimately John was like, why don't we just animate what we don't have and finish it? And which would also allow us to sort of rewrite the scenes, that weren't shot yet. We had a little bit of liberty to make adjustments in the stuff that wasn't yet filmed.
And to be fair, it is a terrible idea. To just take half of an episode and, just animate it randomly with no narrative reason. At first blush, it looks good now looking backward maybe, but it was not a great idea. But it was an idea born out of desperation, and maybe that's where some of the good ideas come from.
Yeah, I feel like when you're kind of pushed into a corner, like innovation, there's a lot of opportunity for innovation, right? I feel like this episode definitely was kind of an example of that, right? But yeah, I mean, how much time did you guys have to actually deliver this finished product? Because I feel like, what kind of time constraints were you up against?
Well, nothing that Matt and Adam ever had to worry about.
Yeah.
They were used to this timeline. It was very quick. We had, I think, 5 weeks, maybe 5 weeks.
Yeah, I think it's about 5 weeks.
And I think Adam and Matt can speak to what is a more typical turnaround time for an episode for any animation. But it was, it was extraordinarily quick, and I think they could speak better than we could too. How it seemed to us like it was a round-the-clock operation where people were in Atlanta and people were in London, and we would get up and see what was worked on while we were sleeping, and we would then have an afternoon meeting with people who'd been working all day. We'd give our notes, we'd go to sleep, we'd wake up, the notes would be done. So it was quite an undertaking.
Yeah, I mean, let's bring in Adam and Matt. I mean, Proof has been kind of behind some of the biggest kind of blockbuster movies, like Wonder Woman, Jurassic World, Guardians of the Galaxy. Was this the first time you guys worked on a television show with kind of TV constraints?
I mean, prior to working at Proof, I've done TV before, so I do know, and Matt as well, but we've both done TV stuff. So we do know the constraints. Yeah, we have. Yeah, but this is the first thing as Proof that we've done a TV thing. Yeah,
it was definitely a surprise. I mean, I think I'm not sure about you, Ad. I just finished on a big job that obviously because of the situation had gone on hiatus, and we thought that was it. We were going to have some hibernation for a few months, and then this came about. And the turnaround. Typically, we'd be, I don't know. To do this amount of work, we'd probably be talking months rather than 5 weeks.
Yeah.
So, it was definitely quite daunting, wasn't it?
Definitely.
And it was starting from scratch as well. It was normally like you'd normally have a bit of time to build models and research and stuff, and this was hit the ground running with 5 weeks to do it. So there was a lot of catch up.
Yeah, we had to build everybody from scratch, like 14 main characters that had to resemble.
Before that, we obviously watched all 150 whatever episodes.
Of course.
Yeah.
That took 3 of the 5 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of research.
You've done a lot of this.
Research was quite a big thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is true. There was a learning curve for both sides. We knew nothing about animation, and they had to learn about the show, and just in terms of there were a lot of conversations about how scenes are shot and for the show and what they normally look like, and how can we both incorporate some of that, but how can we also take advantage of the fact that we're not now tethered to live action, and what can we do to make it even more of a graphic novel? What kind of angles, what kind of shots can Adam and Matt generate for us that we couldn't dream of doing if we were actually doing it in live action? And I think part of what was fun about it, certainly to do, and I hope for people to see, was that we got to exaggerate some of what is ultimately part of the DNA of the show anyway, but we got to exaggerate it in a way that we never otherwise would have.
Yeah, I mean, what were you able to accomplish through animation that may have maybe been more difficult to kind of pull off in live action? Like the scene that I'm thinking about is kind of the helicopter kind of getaway scene. Seemed like that would have been a headache to pull off in real life.
It's cool for us because a lot of the things that we do rely on big visual effects pieces. We don't typically, we're not used to worrying about those kind of things, putting cameras in places where you couldn't easily do it normally. And like you say, adding big helicopter scenes and taking exotic locations and all that kind of stuff. We take it for granted normally, but you guys, obviously you shoot stuff for real and quite quick. So yeah, it was slightly, I would say it's possibly easier for us. We're used to doing that kind of thing more.
I think there was one particular meeting that we because we do a Zoom call with these guys every day, and there was one meeting where I think Jon Bokenkamp mentioned the whole graphic novel kind of aesthetic, and we just knew I think that was the moment that it all clicked into place, and we knew exactly what we were doing, and as far as camera angles and coverage and staging scenes went, that was the key phrase, I think.
I think I would imagine that for the actors, it was probably much more difficult than it was in part for us, because they had to, it's a very social undertaking to act, and you're acting with other people and you're on the set. But in this case, they were in their closets. They were, in the middle of nowhere, having to act with people that weren't there. And I was concerned a little bit that would be very difficult, and that when we were busy talking about what the shot should be, it would be difficult potentially to sync it up with the performances. But it turned out that the performances, we didn't have to redo a single one, and they were all done on their own with no one who was in the scene with them to talk to.
Yeah, I mean, for the actors, for Diego and Harry, I mean, I'm curious what those initial first few days were like when COVID-19 shut everything down. What was that like for you guys as cast, not knowing if you would be able to come back to work? Diego, I'll start with you.
I think we sensed it. It was there. I mean, it's New York City. Every day somebody gets off a flight from every corner of the world. So, we were shooting and for weeks, if not longer, saying, when's it going to happen here? And you could feel it in the air. We were out on location shooting. I'd just done the episode with Anthony Michael Hall. We were all over the place, and so it wasn't a big surprise, but it did hit home as soon as we shut down. I think I finished on a Wednesday. By Friday, I know I had my rest of the stuff to shoot the following week, but I left on Wednesday and I thought, I'm not coming back. Like, everything just started falling like dominoes. So it was pretty ominous to be shooting this show with the city. It was like being in a movie where it felt like things were going to overrun the city. So it was, I'm kind of laughing at it now because it was pretty surreal. So I'm just, thankful everybody, cast and crew, is healthy and okay from what I know. And we were able to get this episode done.
Yeah, and Harry, if you want to chime in.
Well, yes, I actually wasn't on the episode Brothers with Diego and Anthony Michael Hall, although I did see Anthony at a Rangers game. And we won that game, by the way. Rangers. That is, but, there was certainly something in the air. I had been traveling around the country. In fact, the weekend before they shut everything down, that was to say on the 15th of March, I was in Louisiana and Mardi Gras had just happened, and I was at a conference actually talking to the state sheriffs and so forth. So people were congregated. Nobody knew what the rules of COVID were. But then that next day, it was pretty abrupt. And Diego and I had actually seen each other, I think, earlier that week, week. And we were just, he was saying, I don't think this is going to complete, And so I saw my buddy Joey Slotnick, who was in this last episode. He plays the kind of courier guy from Chicago, a buddy of mine. And he said, man, I don't think we're going to finish this episode. So certainly, it was in the air. Other productions had sort of been doing that kind of a trickle effect. And we knew at that point that it was inevitable. The only question was how long we would have to live under these kinds of restrictions. But I have to say this, and I didn't get a chance to do any animation for this episode, but I've done it in movies and on radio plays. I've done animation before for things like the Justice League or what have you. But so, to some extent, to answer Eisendrath, we actors like challenges, I think, to a certain extent. And one of the best jobs, the very best job in all of show business, is to be a voiceover artist. So guys, I love the episode. I think it was a great idea. Just philosophically, where are these people? Where is this other reality taking place? Whether or not it was done because of a happy accident or so, I think it did show a way forward. And I think that the wildly imaginative, flights of fancy that the writers and animators got a chance to do actually enhanced the experience. It makes it a kind of hyper-real, experience. And I think that's very interesting in this new age of whether we can achieve artificial intelligence, all of these things. So.
Another happy, on the subject of happy accidents, you mentioned Joey Slotnick. He has a face made for animation, so it was perfect. He was the bad guy in the episode.
For the cast, I mean, when you first heard that the producers were like thinking about bringing this into the animated world, what did you initially think of the idea? It sounds like you guys are all into this, the route that they were taking with this episode.
What do you mean? Like going to work in like a t-shirt, recording in your linen closet,
Basically,
not having
exactly.
to get up at like 4:35 in the morning and go to hair and makeup and do all that stuff? Yeah, it was terrific. So, no, it was genius. I mean, as soon as I was sitting stocking up in a Target parking lot when Bokenkamp called me, and he said, hey, buddy, this is what's going on and what we're going to do. And it's genius. I thought, okay, well, there's a way to get it done. This is the only way to do it. So I thought it was perfect.
Yeah, I heard about it from Diego. He texted me, and I thought it was. I think I literally was like, "You got to believe this shit." Yeah, and then Spader called, and then I knew it was going to happen because I was very excited about it. I just as a fan of the show.
What did it say on your phone? Did it say the Bat phone?
Yeah,
from,
exactly.
Spaderville. Well, I want to see what you got it under.
Nick's Pizza.
Yeah, there you go.
No, but I didn't recognize the number. I really didn't. I just happened to answer on a whim, and it was Spader, and he was saying something about the opening. We had done that sort of special opening as ourselves, out of character, completing Elizabeth Keene's lines. So it was really. At that point, I was just excited as a fan of the show to see what the writers would come up with. I'm not there a whole lot in person. I think my character is sort of the egg in the cake in a way, but I'm a fan of the show. I don't get to see these guys doing all this work. Diego and James and Megan and Hisham are there a lot. And so I was curious as to how it would look, but I really did appreciate the fact that we could show parts of Washington, D.C. as if it were part of the, of the reality that it would be if we were there all the time.
We're using egg in the cake in the next episode. 100%. I love
Perfect.
that.
100%. I've been jotting it down right here. Oh.
Yeah, the egg in the cake. I love that.
That's yours.
Like working from home offers such kind of unique challenges, especially in quarantine. Did you guys put into place like a workflow that made sense for you? Were there a lot of, 3 a.m. Zoom calls for people just to like get this all together because the time constraint was so kind of short, the deadline was so fast?
Well, we were sort of making it up as we went along a little bit, really. We did get something in place to allow all the animators to be able to work from home about a week before we started. So it was kind of... it was a bit touch and go, but it worked out really surprisingly smoothly. I mean, I was quite concerned about running a team. I had a team of 10 people. Matt had a team of about the same, and just communicating with people was, I just thought, going to be a big issue. But it turned out pretty smoothly in the end.
Yeah, we've never done it before, have we? We've never worked.
No.
None of the guys. So
we're always either in the studios or within a visual effects house, for security reasons, basically. But for this one, obviously, nobody can do that. It's
crazy. There was a lot of Zoom calls. There was a lot of like speaking to you guys and trying to beat the kids away in the background because working at home when you've got young children is a nightmare as well. It's lovely to see them, but they don't really care. So yeah, that was challenging. Working with people who you've never met before as well, right?
That was another thing. Yeah,
it's we cast the net quite wide to get a lot of animators in, and some of these people I still haven't met in person yet. So that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
One of the things that I thought was really cool is how the editors, Chris and Elise, and our post supervisor Z Hatley, you guys would create shots, send them to Chris and Elise, who would then sort of drop them in. We took the sound of the episode, laid it out so we got the length of it right, and then went in and put the pictures to it. So as the guys are animating shots, the editors are then very quickly sort of dropping them in, saying, well, what do you think of this? How does this feel? How does this work? And they worked very closely, going back and forth to try to find the pace of the cut in a way before it was really shot or directed. And I think that was really helpful.
It was. I mean, that's kind of how we work normally. We'd have an editor with us as part of the team, just literally working like that. So yeah, I think having Chris embrace that way of working was great for us, really.
He loved it. He was like, oh my God, I can ask for any shot. I've never had this before.
Yeah, we'll be off doing animation next.
It's totally different because you guys, you shoot a lot, right? And obviously because animation's slow, we only animate exactly what you need, really.
Right, but he could ask you for what he really needed. He could get it.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, he loved
and we
it.
often drop shots that we...
Go ahead, John.
Well, I was just say we're guilty of dropping scenes and sequences that we go out and spend time and money trying to shoot and go, I guess we didn't need that. So in that way, it was also really cool to just literally have only what we need end up in the episode.
It's going to be a very different season 8.
Very efficient. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was good. It was quite, and it must have been quite challenging. I don't know if they showed it if the rest of the cast saw the early versions of what we were doing, but obviously at the beginning when we were building those scenes with you guys and Chris and Elise, we didn't have the models. We didn't have anything, so we were having to animate and design the shots at the same time as building the models. So everything looked very grey and kind of crummy for a long time.
I think Jason Statham stood in for quite a lot of people at one point.
That's what I was going to say. I thought I recognized him and that's who that was.
Yeah.
We've just got a massive library of models of people that we've used in the past. And Jason Statham seemed to come up quite a lot in that episode.
There was a point where Statham played 3 characters in the same
Yeah.
It was getting really weird with them.
Honestly, not surprising. It's Jason Statham.
Yeah,
recording voiceovers in lockdown, were you able to see actual footage that the animators were working on while you were filming your lines, or how did that kind of all work out?
Yeah, it was just kind of a traditional ADR session in the linen closet down the hall here. So, I was fortunate that I'm in a location that has good carpets and a good linen closet where I could hang towels and dampen the sound and everything. So, but they would send versions of the scenes or whatever they would have, and you have to queue up the audio and fit it in there. And it wasn't as involved as some ADR sessions, but Harry knows this. I mean, we do this we have a great sound department on this show. I was telling one of the producers, Laura Benson, this show is the least amount of ADR I've ever done, and I love it. It's great because at times it's not the best for performance when you're trying to squeeze something in, or a car went by, or somebody yelled something in the background. As you know, like shooting in New York City, everybody wants to say something on camera. So it wasn't really hard at all, to be honest. It was just a matter of checking out what they wanted to do, which was always cool. I'm getting it on my phone and I'm always watching it, checking out all the new stuff coming in. So I was excited about that. And otherwise, it was pretty much a piece of cake.
You got to see yourself come to life in animated form. How was it seeing Ressler go from live action to animation? I felt like the episode did a really, really good job of, making that transition seamless.
Well, yeah, it's just cool. I mean, you're an actor, I've done movies, I've done, tons of TV shows and other things. And, to see yourself as a cartoon, it's like the 7-year-old version of myself. It was like, look, I'm a cartoon now. This is, I made it. So, it was cool. It was interesting. Just, I'm always a big fan of the process and how it all comes together and what they do. And so I was not really focused on myself. I thought, oh wow, I'm a cartoon. That's great. But look at all these other things that that they're doing.
Harry, were you at all jealous that you lost out on kind of seeing Harold in animated form? I thought it was, cool that you got your, scenes all filmed, but was a part of you kind of like, I wish.
Well, I think, Philiana, I am by my very nature an exaggeration. I really need to see it. No, but it would have been fun. But I was okay with it. I think it makes a statement that the police guy in it is 100% real. For example, in Matrix or whatever, my character as Jason Locke was natural born, so I couldn't jack into the Matrix. So in a way, it sort of says something that the people who sort of interface between Red Reddington's world, which is a kind of surreal place, and the actual physical reality, as it were, which is kind of Cooper's place in the post office. I think it makes an interesting statement.
Wow, finally we have a reason for the way it was done. We've been hunting for that for months, Harry.
It sounds really legit.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that.
You know, Harry, you weren't animated, but you had a long scene in there that we had only shot your side of the phone call. And you had a long scene with James. And we had to lean into your live action more than we probably would have, because we hadn't shot James, and the editors are going through 7 years of footage trying to find some kind of scene where he's got a phone, but his face isn't on the screen and his mouth isn't moving. And it really did lean into, we had to lean into your performance, because we only popped him a couple of times, and it's a long scene. I think we did that twice.
We did that twice, and we did this. There was a scene with Liz and Brian Dennehy that was entirely from another episode, because we hadn't filmed the live action part of it, where she was in the scene in the beginning of the episode when she first transitions to animation. It was all voiceover from Liz, because we hadn't shot the scene. And so the film was from an earlier episode. And so we voiced it over, and then that's when we transitioned to having Harry and Diego and the others sort of explaining to the audience why we were doing it.
For anyone who kind of wants to answer, I mean, what surprised you the most about this final version of the episode when you did sit down and watch? I
mean, I was pleasantly surprised by how accepting people were of the idea, and then how excited they were about the animation.
Does anyone else have?
Yeah, I think we didn't really get to see the transitions happen until right at the end. So we'd done it. We'd seen the cut of what all the performers had done, and we'd obviously seen the animation. But how you transitioned in between and all that effect stuff, we didn't see that until near the end. So that was very cool. The first time you saw Liz transform between the two worlds. That was pretty good. And the first time we had an edit back with Harry, it was your introduction, actually, Harry, that for weeks we've been saying, how on earth, how the hell are they going to explain this? How's this?
Yeah.
And then Harry came on and did that monologue at the beginning. I thought, okay, so we're just being very upfront and honest. And so they were two big moments for us, I think. Equally, when you guys got new animation too, we were quite excited to get an edit back to see what was coming through from Chris and Elise and you lot. So it was, they were the two best surprises, I think. But
let's talk about that opening. I mean, the episode opened with a very special video message from the cast.
Like all of you,
our lives were put on hold because of the coronavirus.
That kind of explained the situation and why this was partially animated. Who came up with this idea to kick it off with that message? Because it brought a lot of hope and it was really touching. So why was it important to include?
John and I had talked about it, and just in terms of what we initially tried to think, because Harry saved until now the actual reason why some things were animated and some things were live action, but we didn't understand or had no explanation for why, because it was just random. We filmed scenes out of order, and the scenes that were filmed, and the ones that weren't. And we quickly discarded the idea that we could just pretend that there was an actual reason other than the real reason why we had to do it this way. And once we'd done that, we knew that we would be explaining it to people directly. And really the question then was, do you just start the episode before you've seen a single scene of it with just, hang on guys, before we start this episode, we just want to tell you what's going on. Again, in hindsight, it was a happy accident that the teaser, the initial sequence of the episode had been filmed. That was part of what had already been filmed. So we then thought, well, would there be a more sort of organic way to introduce this concept? And just, it seemed natural that she was going to transition and that was the place to do it. And the audience could be drawn into the story and then be told, hang on a second. Then I think when you asked what was one of the pleasant surprises, I do think now that I think more about it, how emotional that was, how resonant it was to have the actors pulling back the curtain and speaking as themselves directly to the audience. We've been on the air a long time. The audience loves the characters and loves the actors who play them. And I think to see them for the first time as themselves and in a way that was reaching out empathetically to everyone, I thought was very powerful.
And also the closing message. I mean, you featured a lot of the crew members too. How did that all kind of come together?
That was John's idea. John.
Keep dropping out. Right. Yeah. John, you can speak to the. You can speak.
I'll spare him or everybody else. The idea of giving people a chance we thought that it was an opportunity for everyone to be able to reach out not only to our audience, but in a way reach out to people that they loved, people that they cared about, that they weren't able to reach out to or were distanced from during all of this. And so it was a way to thank everybody and wish everybody health and well-being during this difficult time. And it felt like it had again, sort of appropriate amount of acknowledgement that we were all in it together, and that the show was really, in a way, the entire episode was just really a vehicle to allow people, number one, to keep working at a difficult time who worked on the Blacklist, give people who were sitting at home an extra 42 minutes of distraction from what they otherwise were going through, and give our family on the Blacklist the opportunity to reach out directly to the viewers to say, we're with you, we care about you, and we wish you well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I do want to ask about kind of the consequences of this finale. I mean, you know, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't watched the episode, but in the finale, Liz decides to side with her mom. How do you think Liz's decision to kind of align with her mom could maybe affect the task force?
One thing to point out is, obviously, like John said, we didn't get to finish our last 3 episodes. And while that arc may seem a little accelerated because it was done in that final episode, I think it's going to be very clear where she's going when we start next season. And I think it blows everything up in sort of the best way possible. I think it's an inevitable turn that is going to be really fun to watch unravel, you know, and you know, blow things up.
And, you know, we usually, obviously, finish off all the stories that we're contemplating in a given year. And then we start the next year thinking, oh, my God, well, we did all the big stuff at the end of last year. Where are we going to start? This year, we have all the big stuff that we were unable to finish at the end of the last season that is going to start this season. So the next season, season 8, starts in a much more heightened, dramatic place than normal seasons do, because we are going to tell the story that we were unable to tell at the end of last season.
But you are carrying over the remaining kind of 3 unproduced episodes into the start of season 8.
Oh yeah, we write an episode, we film it. We're not throwing it out. We're too lazy. We're not going to be like, oh, you know, let's just start over. Yeah, we're using them. Yeah.
There's also Reddington's illness, which, you know, has been a seed that's been planted in this series. How does that affect his perspective on his life and his relationships?
Since we're talking about animation and graphic novels, you know, he has a certain supernatural, all-powerful kind of comic book bad guy vibe. And the idea that he is now going to be afflicted by something that makes him more vulnerable, less superhuman, that, you know, he has to deal with his own mortality, I think will give him a different perspective, not only on his life, but on the people that he is interacting with. And so I think it will have a very humanizing effect on him.
You know, it's something we've teased out for a while, but it is something we're going to drill down on and learn a lot more about.
This question is more for Diego. I mean, I feel like it's been a minute since we've seen Liz really let somebody in following Tom's death. I mean, why do you think Ressler is that safe place that Liz is feeling like she can go to? You know, do you think there's more brewing between these two?
Of course, I have a million people on Twitter saying, "Yay, look at you guys!" You know, that's their voice that it comes up as. Yeah, I think it's inevitable. I think, you know, we've gone through so much together over the years that obviously, I mean, who wouldn't trust me? So, she comes to me and reveals her secrets. I think it's a good place as an actor to be in of the John set it up so well over the years of trying to walk this line of, where your mom is, let's go to Cooper. And, and then also trying to hold on to that relationship with Liz and do the right thing. So it's a very conflicted, fun thing to play. I've heard rumors about these last 3 episodes and what's going to come up for the beginning of season 8. So very interested to finally get the scripts and see where we kick off season 8.
There's only been one episode in the entire series that Spader was not in, and that was the episode that we filmed toward the end of this past season, where Diego's character was dealing with issues in his personal life with his brother. Toward the end, we knew that he was going to need to reach out for some assistance in terms of the resolution to the dilemma that he was in. And initially, it was Red who he reached out to. And then, we realized that it might be more appropriate and more natural for him to reach out to Liz. And I thought it was very powerful that it was her that he went to instead of Red, and that in the end she says that she didn't do it for him, she did it for herself because she couldn't imagine her life without him.
And I mean,
that's on a card somewhere at CBS.
That is on a card. I think in the mirror in her bathroom she has it.
Totally.
Since this is Comic-Con, I have to ask you, Harry, about rumors that maybe you'll be appearing in Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League. Is that true? Care to break some news?
Well, I wish I knew or had some insight. I'd be the first. I'd be jumping up and down. I can tell you that when the Justice League was first formulated, I was supposed to be in it, and the Johns over here gave me leave to go. I was set to go to London, and then there was a rewrite of the script, and they wrote it out. But I think, what I've been excited about is that Zach mentioned it. I didn't know that he was going to reveal that secret that Martian Manhunter is Swanwick until, relatively recently. But I would be delighted. Obviously it's I love Zack Snyder. I love the Justice League. Superman's my first hero so when I, did it, it was great. Diego actually went to Batman vs Superman premiere with me, and I think he should be the next Captain America, by the way. Let me just say that. So listen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope that it happens. I think if the fans want it to happen, it will happen, because that's why we're having the conversation about his cut in the first place, is because they demanded it. So if there's a demand for Martian Manhunter, I'm all in.
Awesome. Well, we'll be, crossing our fingers that actually does happen. Lastly, before I kind of let you all go, it may be a while until, season 8 drops, but the finale closes with Liz embracing her dark side with a really cool, I feel like, one of my favorite scenes of the episode, where she's kind of standing on the rooftop peering over the city. What can you tell us about where season 8 will pick up? Any teases you can give us to tide us over this very, very long wait?
Well, I would say that last shot, that was all Matt. That sort of very comic book, graphic, graphic novel sort of vibe at the end of the season, I thought was fantastic. I think next season is, it picks up immediately, and it's a rocket ship. It's urgent, and I think it's unlike anything we've done. Wouldn't you say, John? It's unlike any of the other seasons in a really great way. And it's going to be very different.
The whole point of her siding with her mother when we were originally coming up with the end of the season was so in short order that would have an enormous consequence in her relationship to Red. And we will be exploring that and having that consequence revealed within the first 2 episodes next year.
Awesome. That's a great tease. Thank you so much to the Blacklist cast and crew, as well as the animators from Peru for bringing us a singular hour of television. Don't forget, the Blacklist will be back for season 8. at some point. Yeah, thanks again for joining us.
Until next time, I'm Agent Troy Heinrichs. That's at Troy Heinrichs on Twitter. And if you want to learn more about me, just visit, about.me/Troy Heinrichs.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson. You can hear me talking about movies and TV on the Hollywood Outsider podcast, as well as Remake This Movie Right. We are available at thehollywoodoutsiders.com or on Twitter at 5popcorn. Be sure to subscribe, download the app, submit your feedback, but most importantly, keep yourself off of the Blacklist.
The Blacklist Exposed is a Golden Spiral Media production. Find more of our great podcasts at goldenspiralmedia.com/podcasts.